Good day everyone, my name is Almila Basano and I'm going to report the novel entitled Pride and Prejudice. So the intended learning outcomes are: first, discuss the brief bibliography of the author; second, identify and discuss all the other elements present in the story; and the third one is identify and analyze all the major characters in this story. So the author's name is Jane Austen, born December 16, 1775 in Steventon, Hampshire, England, died July 18, 1817 in Winchester, Hampshire, England. Parents' name: Reverend George Austen and Cassandra. Early works: Love and Friendship in 1790s, and the next year she wrote the History of England. Major works: Eleanor and Marion, published as Sense and Sensibility in 1811; First Impressions, published as Pride and Prejudice in 1813; Mansfield Park in 1814; Emma in 1815; Susan, published as Northanger Abbey by Jane's brother Henry; and the last one is Persuasion. Jane Austen was a Georgian-era author not widely known in her own time but gained popularity after 1869, and her reputation skyrocketed in the 20th century. She started writing when she was a teenager. She published these novels during her lifetime: Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, Emma, Persuasion, and Northanger Abbey. Persuasion and Northanger Abbey were published posthumously, and a final novel was left incomplete. By the way, all of Jane's novels were published anonymously. Today, Austen is considered as one of the greatest writers in English history, both by academics and the general public. So that's all about the author, and next one is about the novel. Initially, the novel was published with the title First Impression. Subsequently, it was changed and a new title, Pride and Prejudice, was given to it, which has much significance. In fact, the title summarizes the whole novel. It is a story of two persons who have nothing in common, neither class nor thinking. However, common human nature can be observed. Both main characters hate each other, both have pride, and both are prejudiced. The novel reveals the characters growing together to amend their pride and remove the prejudices of each other and the world in which they live. So, these are the elements present in this story. First is setting. It is set in a rural England in the early 19th century. Plot: the story begins at Longbourn, a small countryside in Georgian Britain. The Bennets have 5 daughters, and Mrs. Bennet's sole purpose in life is to see her daughter's marriage into higher society and well settled. Then follows with a young, handsome, and wealthy Mr. Bingley moving into the neighborhood. From there on, the story revolves around how the couples, Jane and Mr. Bingley, Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, Mr. Collins and Charlotte, and lastly, Mr. Wickham and Lydia come together, facing many hardships, misinterpretations, and misjudging characters and their ideas. So the main conflict are between the characters, that is the character versus character. It is the conflict between Elizabeth's bad opinion of Mr. Darcy and Mr. Darcy's disapproval of Elizabeth and her family because of their inferior economic status. The second one is the characters versus the society. Women not being educated, the rights taken away. For instance, how the Bennet estate goes on to Mr. Collins, as Mr. Bennet has 5 daughters and no son, and the necessity of the characters to meet with the society standards of marriage, money, and manners. The last one is between the character and self. This is showcased in how Elizabeth begins to approach Thomas' judgment in case of both Mr. Darcy is being prejudiced against him, as well as Mr. Wickham by being practiced towards him. This is also seen in how Mr. Darcy grows out of his status and class consciousness and realizes that his pride makes him appear arrogant and damages his reputation and fulfilling character. The next one is themes. The themes are love, class, reputation, marriage, economic status, education, position of women, and reality versus appearance. It focuses on how the women of the Georgian Britain had only one purpose in life, and that was to get married and to get higher society education for women was extremely rare. It also how judgments based on appearance alone can be wrong and can be deceiving. The story is a satire to the 19th century England, mocking the manners of the ideas of class, consciousness, economic status, and vanity of the gentility class during the Regency era in England. So the next one is the major characters, which are Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy and Elizabeth Bennet. So Mr. Darcy, he is a proud and arrogant man, particularly to those that he considers of lower social status. He is a wealthy gentleman, the master of Pemberley, and the nephew of Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Though Darcy is intelligent and honest, his excess of pride causes him to look down on his social inferiors. Over the course of the novel, he tempers his class consciousness and learns to admire and love Elizabeth for her strong character. While Miss Elizabeth, she's the most intelligent and sensible of the five Bennet sisters. She is also a well-read and quick-witted with a tongue that occasionally proves too sharp for her own good. Her realization of Darcy's essential goodness eventually triumphs over her essential prejudice against him. So the other characters are Charles Bingley, George Wickham, Lydia Bennet, Mr. Collins, Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, Charlotte Lucas, Jane Bennet, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, Caroline Bingley, Mary Bennet, Kitty Bennet, Georgina Darcy, and Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner. And that's all. Thank you.